So Bryce Harper's hurt now, and it's really, what do the Phillies go from here? We're seeing a lot of stars getting hurt, but the Phillies especially are a team that, they're on kind of the border. They could be a wild card team. They can make a push to be a wild card team, or they can kind of, trade away some guys and kind of look for the future. It kind of failed experiment with the lack of bullpen and defense. So, and no manager, mind you. So, pose the question: what should the Phillies do now that Harper's on the IL?
So I've been saying this, I'm pretty sure all season, and then when Joe Girardi was fired, I fully bought into it. The Phillies should give up. Like this Phillies experiment is not working. Bryce Harper is performing at an MVP level, just like he did last year, and the team just is not there. Like, it is not good enough to compete for a World Series. And I don't care if you can like weasel your way into a wild card spot, which right now they're not at. They're 3 back of the wild card. They're in, I think, 5th place among NL wild card hopefuls. What good does it do if you weasel your way into a wild card spot? Because really the future of your team isn't that bright. I mean, they've got guys that they've come up recently like Stott and Moniak and Bohm, but other than that, like the team that they're building is built to win now, and winning now doesn't mean weasel your way into a wild card spot and not compete for a World Series. And so I think even now that Harper's hurt, and I was thinking this before, the Phillies should really pack it in, see if you can get value from trading a couple of guys, and then really this offseason, think about the way you're constructing this roster, this organization, from manager and general manager all the way down to the players in the farm system, and then everything in the middle with players on the field, because I really don't think that they've constructed this organization well over the last couple of years, and I think this roster is honestly a mess right now.
I'm actually going to have to disagree on this one. I think maybe not go all in this season and go for a World Series now, but I still think, they signed Castellanos and Schwarber to multi-year deals, and like you said, they are still disappointing. Harper's putting up another MVP caliber season. You're getting all-star seasons from Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola from the starting pitching, and yet they're 3rd place in the NL East. So, but I think what you can do is, I do think one move I'd like to see them make for this season is maybe look to trade for an Andrew Benintendi, who's a left-handed bat. He can fill the outfield now. Maybe you re-sign him. He's good on defense, so he'll fill a hole in in the corner outfield if you re-sign him. He'll fill it now if you trade for him. Be a left-handed bat while Harper's out, and be a key defensive piece in that outfield. So maybe, that's not like a huge superstar splash where they become like contenders all of a sudden. But I do like that deal for the Phillies. Add another bat, add a good glove, and maybe you can re-sign him. And then I think that turns him to a wild card contender at the very least. And I think, honestly, a wild card berth, it's like looking at it like, oh, they're just wild card. They never had really a chance. But for the Phillies, who've struggled for a while now, since they were good in like the early 2009 to 10-ish range, where they won a World Series in that time, they haven't really done much since. And I feel like a wild card berth, getting into the playoffs, and wild card is 3 games now. So you throw out Aaron Nola, Wheeler, maybe you get lucky and you move on to the division series, and I think that'd be a success for the Phillies team. But I think adding a guy like Benintendi now, maybe re-signing him, and then going after some free agents. There's a lot of good starting pitching that they can add one more, and that'd be a 3-man rotation that I think they can get some of these guys for relatively cheap. You got Noah Syndergaard, Evaldi. It's looking at some of these guys who are free agents. I think you can get maybe another starting pitcher, as well as there are some relievers available as well. You got Aroldis Chapman, Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell, Zach Britton. Maybe you get like a veteran who's solid to kind of lead the bullpen, and just getting a guy who you trust late in games, because right now they've got Corey Knebel, who's been good. But not great. He's kind of one of those guys who he's either shutting you down 1, 2, 3 in the 9th, or he's given up 5 runs and without recording an out. So I think maybe you sign one of those veteran guys who you think can kind of hold it down, 1 to 2 year deal, and maybe even throw in a bag at Edwin Diaz. I doubt he'd go to the Phillies from the Mets. But, I mean, make a push for a guy who's going to help out your bullpen, and maybe an Andrew Benintendi who's going to help defense as well. And all of a sudden, if you add a key defensive piece in the outfield and a relief pitcher while developing Stott and Bohm and Moniak, I think, and getting Bryce Harper back healthy for next year, I think you're looking at a team who can definitely compete for a wild card spot. And maybe with a big move next season, as long as everyone stays healthy, they can turn into contenders.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you're right. Like, we don't really normally see fire sales in baseball unless you're the A's or other teams like that. So I doubt the Phillies would tear down what they've tried to do over the past couple of years. Maybe what I mean more is just like tear things down from a perspective standpoint of like what you're trying to build. Because I think right now what they've been doing is you're like, you know what, we're just going to go after the bats. We don't care about defense. We're going to make these big splashes. And it just hasn't worked for them. They signed Schwarber and Castellanos, much to, I think, the chagrin of a lot of Phillies fans, because they're like, our defense is already not that good. We have some bats, and this isn't going to help us at all. It'll hurt us on defense. And even though I think we came into this season thinking, wow, they've got a lot of big boppers in that lineup, this is the lineup they're going to be rolling out against righties right now. It's Didi, Adubel Herrera, Alec Bohm, Stott, Moniak. Like, all those guys are in the starting lineup. It's just an offense that doesn't scare me for a defense that's not actually that good. I know Harper is out, but I think from an organizational standpoint, they need to, even if they're not going to tear everything down and undo all of the moves that they've tried to make over the past couple of years, just really sit down and focus on the core philosophies of the organization, and find somewhere to shift it, because they can't just keep going out there every year saying, okay, we made these free agency moves, that should push us over the edge. When in reality, I think they just need to look at the philosophy a little bit more, maybe become more analytically focused, bring in some new minds at possibly GM and manager. I think if you do that, then maybe I can understand sticking with the same roster, because you're right, they do have pieces. Maybe they're an Andrew Benintendi away from finding a little key to switch up this offense and line up a little bit, or some bullpen changes, because they really need it. Their bullpen is second to last in win percentage added this year, and I think first and last is the A's, so they're in bad company. But if you're going to keep the roster the same, I think you need to change the minds that are shaping that roster and then filling out the 9-person lineup card every day.
Yeah, I think a change would definitely help, because, I mean, obviously we've seen the last few years, whatever strategy they have, it's not working. And I think I'm just looking at the list of guys who are going to be free agents this year. I mean, Gregorius is on there, so you're going to need a new shortstop, whether that's going to be Stott for the future or if you want to put Stott at second. But you're going to need some new guys, and I think you sign a relief pitcher, trade for Benintendi. If you don't sign him, look for a guy who's maybe not elite offensively, but has a great glove. And I think, I mean, we know they have guys who can swing it in the lineup. Castellanos, Schwarber, they're going to be guys who like are streaky, not really streaky, but they'll put up solid numbers over the course of the season. They won't be MVP caliber bats, but that you've got Harper to do that. Real Muto, he struggled this year a little bit, but you know he's going to be solid. And I think if you add a guy who maybe isn't that caliber offensively, but can hold down a defense like Benintendi, who has potential to be a solid offensive hitter as well, I think you maybe go after a Joey Gallo if the price is right, a guy who can hit home runs, but he's elite defensively. And if the shifts get in band, who knows? Maybe he gets lucky, starts getting some of those line drives or ground balls to the right side to get through. And I think maybe with the way Gallo's doing, you can get that for relatively cheap. And at the very least, you're getting a gold glove caliber glove in the outfield who has the potential to add some more offense to the lineup. So I feel like there's a lot of ways they can go, but I feel like it's obvious they need to address defense and the bullpen.
Joey Gallo and Philadelphia sports fans would be like the worst, most toxic combination of all time. Yankees fans are already like on his case, and they're just struggling with having him on their team this year. But Philly fans are just something else. I don't think that they would take to Joey Gallo very well, watching him strike out all the time. But you're right. I think that there are some moves that they can make. But one thing I definitely wouldn't condone is going like all in this season, because I don't think this is their year. And I think we've been saying that for a couple years now. And I don't think also shelling money out this free agency will automatically push them over the edge next year. I think it's a combination of finding the right pieces, not just throwing a bag at the biggest hitters in free agency to try and fix your offensive problems. I think it's really methodically looking at it, figuring out what you have on the roster, who can stay, who needs to go, looking in the minor leagues, like taking inventory of everyone in the organization, and then methodically going after it one piece at a time, not X million dollars at a time like I think they have in previous off seasons, and not just going after name value as well, because we've seen a lot of teams have success analytically driven with guys who you don't know. Look at the Rays, look at the Giants, the Brewers have been doing it as well. I think the Phillies go after it based on guys you do know, and it just hasn't been working for them. I think there needs to be a change in that organization, but I still think you're right. There is some hope that they can turn it around, because you're right, they do have some good hitters. Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, both on our All-Star teams that we talked about in the last episode, they've been good.
Yeah, and I mean, those two starting pitchers combined with a Harper on offense who you have signed long-term. You've got Castellanos and Schwarber as well to be solid offensive contributors for a while. The DH will help that going forward. And I just feel like you add another glove, maybe another consistent bat, maybe like not a guy who's home run or bust. But if you add a glove and a consistent bat, whether it's one guy or a couple different pieces, and as well as addressing the bullpen, I think, I think the window isn't closed. Yeah, they're kind of a veteran-based lineup right now with like Gregorius, Realmuto, Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos. I do think that there is still hope for the Phillies team. And I don't think it's time to change the mindset, but it's not necessarily time to blow up the team.
I would agree with that. I'd say if they change the mindset and the team still sucks, then maybe you blow up the team next year. But I feel bad for Phillies fans, because I think the Phillies front office has the right idea. They're trying to make moves to make the team better. I just think they're looking in the wrong places, and I think they're not looking at it through the right lens. And then they get hit with the Bryce Harper injury, and the one move that they've made over the past couple of years that's really proven to be a good one. He's now out. He's like double hurt. He had the previous injury that made it so he can't throw, and now he's got the broken thumb. I just feel really bad for Phillies fans. I hope they can turn it around. I mean, I'd love to see an NL East where them or the Marlins are also pushing the Mets and Braves at the top. I think it could be really entertaining, because I think we've got more of those 3-team division races brewing across the majors in general. So it's something I definitely want to see happen, and I think the Phillies can get it done, but I think we agree that it needs to be some kind of mindset shift.
Absolutely. And one thing I didn't really think about that I'll mention real quick is you mentioned the Harper other injury where he couldn't throw. That also was helping or hurting them defensively. Yep. I mean, Harper, he's not some elite defender, but he's better than, if you could throw Castellanos at DH instead and not have his glove there, whereas Harper, you have to put him in the lineup. He's Harper, he's performing, and he can't throw, so you have to put him at DH. So now those guys that you signed that can't really play defense now have to play the field. So that's another way that hurt him. And so I think, change of mindset will help, and I think there's still hope for Phillies fans.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for tuning in to this video. If you're a Phillies fan, or if you're just a fan of MLB in general, let us know down in the comments section what you think the Phillies should do. Obviously, sucks to have Harper go down, but they need to go somewhere. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to stand pat and then just figure it out in the offseason? Let us know what you think they should do or what they will do. And then also, while you're down there, please subscribe, leave a like on the video. Check out all of our socials down in the description, some of our podcast episodes that we've done over the past couple of weeks. Last week, or the other day, honestly, we talked about the All-Star game and we filled out our full roster. You can go see what Phillies we had on that team, and then whoever from your favorite team, or we've been Double Play Baseball, and we will see you guys next time.